And now we're done with Thanksgiving.
We're done with
Yes, it's thing.
I am so tired. It must be the L-tryptophan from the turkey. I am just like wiped out.
Will you make the turkey? Do you still trust your mom to make the turkey?
No, my mom makes the turkey.
Did you ever make it?
I've made it when I was not at home. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I never did a whole turkey though. I'm not really into dark meat that much. So I would do
were you entertaining?
Yes, I would have people over, and what I would do is I would do a turkey breast and then a pork loin.
Oh, okay.
Don't tell the rabbi. I do all the fixins, as they say. The cranberry sauce and the dressing, not the stuffing, because you're actually not supposed to put.
I know.
In the cavity of the bird. Thank goodness, because I was only doing a breast anyway, because of salmonella, I guess. I guess that's the fear. No, I would do everything like the 7-cup ambrosia fruit salad that my Aunt Ann used to make in Binghamton, and just all the
Pilgrims.
stuff. Yeah.
I think the first Pilgrims, they stuffed their turkey. That's why
they did stuff their turkey, and then the next winter they did not survive. Send another boatload of religious zealots, please.
Yeah.
It's the SETI Bimco Show, the Zapruder film of podcasts.
This is the SETI Bimco Show, the show where we talk about the angst of teens in real life and our past and in crappy movies. I'm remembering that I forgot to tell you something about Halloween.
Oh, what happened on Halloween?
My wife and I were invited to a party. So she put on the Day of the Dead, the ceremony Day of the Dead makeup with the black and the white.
Dia de los Muertos.
Yes. And she wouldn't let me do mine. I was going to be an annoying guy who brings guitar to party. Because I have a guitar.
Wasn't that a character in Animal House? Didn't Belushi smash his guitar in the middle of Animal House?
That's right.
You should have had an overweight You should have had an overweight, coked up guy with a sweatshirt that says college on it come and smash your guitar. You have to bring several of them because you have to keep doing it over and over for people who kept arriving.
True.
They'd
hand them through the window.
That would have been
you got another guitar. Where'd that come from?
That would have been a great. Yeah, somebody was asking me, when was the last time you dressed up? And I was like, gosh, I had to think about it. I think Bill Clinton was president.
Anyway, we went to a party.
Oh, okay, go to the party. I'm sorry.
The story didn't end with her makeup. So it's a new place her friend lives. It's like a 20-minute Uber drive. We get there. We look at the address. It's all dark. Don't hear anything. And Gene's like, is this the right address, right date? And it's all right. We knock on the door. And his woman friend, I don't know if they're dating. I think they're dating, whatever. Haven't met his new female friend. She says, oh, yes, right date, but didn't you get the email? He's got COVID, tested this morning. It's all canceled. So we didn't get that, and we didn't get that email. So we walked to the nearest subway, and we saw it was roped off, couldn't get on it. But Gene went to the booth to ask, where the nearest. There's usually a bus shuttle if the train's shut down. I guess
to get you to the next stop or whatever.
Yes, and I guess this one was there. He was half asleep, and she walked in with her Day of the Dead makeup, and she said he did one of those. And then he helped her, but she scared him first. And then we got on the train. Wow, that's better.
No, it's like, why is he scared, dude? You work in an information booth at an MTA stop. It's Halloween in Brooklyn. Why are you surprised that somebody would show up dressed up in their Dia de los Muertos makeup? He must be new. He must have just moved to the city.
He's from Kansas. He always wanted to be a subway booth attendant.
Yes, and there was nothing he could do. He was fighting hard to get. He was fighting hard to get one put in Kansas City, and it never took off. And so he was like, "That's it. I'm going to New York to chase my dreams."
But then
I'm going to collect tokens, and they're like, "Oh no, there's something called the Metro card now. They don't use tokens anymore." He's like, "Wow."
Mm-hmm. But so then we got on the subway.
Okay, I keep interrupting your story. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We sit down, and a Mexican family sits right there facing us with their little child. And Gene scared the little child. He had to hide his face. His mom had to hug him.
No. Thank God they got out of Mexico is all I got to say. The child would be traumatized.
I wish you were there because she was talking to Gene in Spanish. And Gene was like, uh-huh. Yeah. She kept talking like, oh, I think she thinks that Gene is Hispanic because the makeup you couldn't tell. And because she kept talking to her in Spanish like half the ride. And Gene's like, what?
Yeah.
And she's just like halfway. She's like, well, I can't tell her now that I don't know what she's saying.
I can't tell her now. The sitcom episode is writing itself. And then the woman goes home to her husband and is like, I met the rudest woman
probably
on the subway.
Made my child cry.
She was in full Dia de los Muertos makeup. And do you think she would answer one of my questions?
So there. That was our Halloween. Came back home.
That was your Halloween. Well,
I forgot about that. So we done Thanksgiving, Halloween. Time flies.
Thanksgiving, Halloween, Christmas, it all rolls into one.
We got to get to what we were.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No. Go ahead. I keep interrupting. I don't know what it is. Basically, right now I'm operating on St. John's Wort, ashwagandha root, and caffeine.
Okay.
I'm like so wiped out. I'm going to bed as soon as I'm done with this because I don't have to be to Walmart for the next few days. Oh, okay. No, but this actually harkens back to because I know we did the episode about teenagers from outer space,
right?
And what you got fixated on was
many
not
things.
Jesus Christ II or the special effects on a $20,000 budget. You were quite fixated on one actor named King Moody who played Ronald McDonald.
For like 15 years.
Well, lo and behold, I'm watching like PBS. I don't know if it was PBS World or PBS Create. One of those mirror PBS channels. And it was an old episode of History Detectives.
Okay.
And for anybody who's never watched History Detectives, basically people have these historical artifacts. Maybe they were passed down from generation to generation. Maybe they bought them online. Maybe they found them at a trade show. In this case, it was a gentleman. He went to okay, are you ready for this? I guess they have a convention for everything. It was a McDonald's collectible convention.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah, I'm guessing probably like a lot of Happy Meal toys get exchanged there. I mean, that's actually pretty serious collecting there. Yep. And then you got like all this, like with all the different movie tie-ins, you've got those subgenres, and so I'm sure it is quite. I'm sure actually it is quite a big deal.
Friend of the show, sometimes host George O'Connor. He probably goes there to look for the He-Man Happy Meal.
The He-Man Happy Meal. Yeah, there you go.
I know there was one.
Oh, there had to have been. They've done everything.
But what
happened? I think they forced some of those people against their will to make Happy Meal. They're like, no, you will.
Oh yeah.
You will put a He-Man and a Skeletor in a Happy Meal, or get somebody else to start your car. Those McDonald's people can be rough, I'm sure.
Yeah. But what'd you find?
So anyway.
Is it King Moody's bones? Let me guess. King Moody's bones.
No. Oh, okay. Stop. No, actually, they didn't even mention King Moody in the episode.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we'll let go of King Moody for right now. But anyway, he had this Ronald McDonald costume, and it was like complete. It had the shoes, it had the Ronald McDonald outfit. The golden arches were a little different. They sort of look like how the old restaurants. I don't know if you recall the old McDonald's. It was like basically like there really wasn't a sit down. It wasn't an eat in. It was all drive through, basically all takeout, and
maybe some benches.
And maybe some benches in front of and they had a golden arch on either side of it. It was like this little. It looked like a big hot dog stand, basically. And he was trying to figure out, and he was told that he bought it to this convention. He was told by the guy that it was worn by the original Ronald McDonald.
Okay.
And so anyway, so he says, and these people they're like historians. Some of them are antiques dealers, and they go out and they say, I'm going to take your artifact and I'm going to do research on it. And they take it and they show it to different experts in the field.
Right.
So basically, it was like the outfit. It had shoes. It had a makeup kit to put the clown makeup.
Okay.
It was a whole shooting gallery.
You mean the pants, shirt?
Well, it was like it was like a union suit kind of thing. It was like all one piece.
Oh.
The pants, the shirt, and everything was all one.
So not
it was like a jumpsuit almost.
There's no underwear with big bright flowers on it.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, well, there was a string bikini with like a hamburger on it. But,
hey, it's okay.
But, yeah,
he's an adult.
Yeah, he's an adult. It's okay. Actually, it's just the two buns, and you got to fill the buns. But I digress. Anyway. So anyway, it turns out that it was well. First of all, there was like some debate on who the original Ronald McDonald was. The actual original Ronald McDonald was Willard Scott from the Today Show.
I was going to tell you that.
But see, that was done locally in Washington D.C. They used to the franchises before there were thousands of them, when there were just several hundred of them. They would do their own advertising.
Right.
And one of the local McDonald's in Washington, D.C. came up, or Willard Scott came up with, or a collaboration with them, they came up with this original Ronald McDonald. It looked nothing like the Ronald. I mean, you could tell it was Willard Scott.
I think Willard Scott came up with that right on spot improv. That's what I heard.
He was also Bozo the Clown in Washington, D.C. Each television market had its own Bozo the Clown.
He improv so many clowns.
He did. And this Ronald was like really kind of scary. I see why kids are afraid of clowns. It's like he had like a paper cup as a nose, like a McDonald's paper cup as a nose, and the outfit was totally different. And then Ray Kroc, the president of McDonald's, got wind of it, and he decided to create a national McDonald's. Okay. And the guy's name was Michael Polakos. He was also Coco the Clown in Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. We'll call him Coco because they finally got up in the end of the episode to his wife, and all she did was call him Coco. So I don't know what kind of kinky role playing was going on in that bedroom, but she always referred to him as Coco. And they found an original TV commercial with him, one of the first TV commercials that he did. And the stripes were wider on the outfit. Anyway, long story short, it turns out that long story short was that each franchise would get sent these kits, and people would dress up as Ronald McDonald for like store events or maybe local advertising or anything. So I'm thinking that was his name Joe Maggard, the one who's claiming he was Ronald McDonald. But is that his name?
You're asking stuff about last week that I don't remember.
Sorry. Anyway, so I'm wondering like if that was his Ronald McDonald gig, like he just did it at a local restaurant, I guess is all I
Yes. Oh, yes. He was less than that. I remember.
Yeah. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting.
I'm sure they came with
I guess not as funny as I thought it was going to be, but anyway.
Well, if you let me talk more about the big underwear with bright flowers on it, it'd be hilarious, John.
Okay, right. Yeah, I'm sure it will. Yeah, that's going to save this bit.
And we're talking about a famous teen today.
Yes.
Peter Parker, a.k.a. Spider-Man. I went through this with John. Do you know who Nicholas?
I am John. I am John.
With George. God.
With New York Times bestselling author and friend of the show, George O'Connor.
George was the host, and we talked about a Spider-Man episode.
Yes.
And I just wondered if you already looked up what we talked about, which is Nicholas Hammond.
Friedrich von Trapp from Sound of Music.
Yep.
Which I only watched every Thanksgiving of my life. Thank you very much.
Did you like it when you were young?
I did. I still love it.
All right.
I still love it. In fact, there's I believe she's Asian American. There's a comic out there, and I can't think of her name now. And she was talking about how her family, they were an immigrant family, and they would watch The Sound of Music, but it was a double VHS tape, but they only had the first tape.
I think I saw.
And so she gets to college, and so she thought the movie was just the first tape, and then she gets to college and like the second half starts, she's like, wait, there's more of the movie. It was like she'd watched it all her life, like 18 years at this point, and never knew there was a second half of the movie.
What if nobody told her at school?
Well, I don't know. Was that something you talk about at school? They probably didn't.
Yeah.
The sad part about it is she was the son of the immigrants. They probably wouldn't speak to her, picked on her because of her race, probably made fun of her lunch.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Well, so I want to know how much you actually know about Spider-Man, John.
I know he got bit by a radioactive spider. And I actually do remember the opening montage of this show, so I must have seen it at some point in 1978 or 1979.
But do you realize that in this TV show, they took away everything that makes Spider-Man interesting? Because he was a nerd and who was Spider-Man, and he also had to take care of his Aunt May. And
there's no Aunt May.
We see her in some of the episodes, but she's not really part of the plot.
Oh, see, that's wrong.
And he's not really much of a nerd. And none of his friends from the comics are in the show.
Yeah, where's Mary Jane?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where's Mary Jane?
That's
Who the hell is this
one.
Julie Masters? Does Mary Jane know about this Julie Masters? I think she would scratch the bitch's eyes out.
Well, this...
well, first of all, the problem with the show is there's too much Peter Parker and not enough Spider-Man.
Right. That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
Too much Peter.
Too much Peter. And that whole eyes glowing when his spider senses start tingling is like, oh.
And it doesn't work like it's supposed to work. Do you realize that?
It's supposed to, no, exactly.
It's supposed to warn Spider-Man of danger, not just random people nearby.
Right. And what is the range on it?
Oh,
like, does he have to be within 500 feet? Does he have to be within 200 feet?
George and I had a big discussion about that.
It seems. Did you really see? I'm sorry. See, this is what I was afraid of. That we're going to be famous. I'm like, is there like a range on this? Like, your TV remote or your garage door opener? Like, it always seemed like he was always pretty close to the place where his spider senses started tingling. Like, he would have to be either like in the same building or like outside the building or
somebody's he's met. But Rita, I don't know if you understand, Rita is Jay Jonah's secretary, and for some reason in this episode she's helping with a chemical experiment. That's how our episode starts. There's 3 kids and Peter working in the chemical lab.
Right.
And
not getting paid anything.
Yeah, they have a big discussion about Big Pharma, how it sucks, and
funny. So fantastic. Things haven't changed in 45 years.
And they I hate to slow the show down, but I'll just say quickly, the episode that John and I watched, Spider-Man went up against a cougar, a bear, and encountered a dog. And in all cases, you could tell that Peter hates animals. He beat the cougar with a webbing with a piece of wood at the end. Mm-hmm. And he tried to get a dog to come into a room where there's supposed to be a ghost. And he's like dragging the dog, yelling at it to come in. And in this episode, the first thing that happens is Peter's friend says, go down to the animal test lab. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah. But I was like, no, animal test lab.
No, don't do that.
What's wrong with you people?
And I think they use the sound of the mice. It was the same sound effects from Satan's School for Girls.
You think so?
I think so. It was like wait a second here. Those are the same. Or unless they cast the same rodents. It could be.
Could be.
Like that terrier, the terrier who played Toto in The Wizard of Oz was like in 12 really, really big movies.
Was he?
Yeah, he co-starred with Spencer Tracy in Fury. He co-starred with Jack Benny and George Washington slept here. Oh, yeah, he has like a dozen. He had like a dozen. I would kill for that terrier's resume. Let me tell you.
Was he in The Sound of Music?
He was not in The Sound of Music.
That was a dog.
He was no longer. He was no longer. Although he did reincarnate as Sparky in Teenagers from Outer Space.
Jeez. Poor Sparky.
Poor Sparky.
So his name is David. That's the scientist.
Yes.
And he played Brad in Superman 3. I don't know if you looked him up.
I do remember that. Do you know who else he played? Gavin O'Herlihy. He played. I would have never guessed this in a million years. He played, remember Chuck Cunningham, the missing brother on Happy Days?
Oh, that was him?
That was he, yes.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yeah, he was actually the son of famous Irish actor Dan O'Hurley, who got nominated for an Oscar. He was a big character actor, like in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Yeah.
Well, he's working on. Let's try to set up his plot because it's very confusing. But he's working on a drug that might be able to control people. I think they say that.
Mm-hmm.
And J. Jonah Jameson, who is also very neutered in this TV show, he's like Peter's pal.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I wanted more bluff, more. Now, did Larry Tate in the pilot play him differently? Because this Robert F. Simon, David White, a.k.a. Larry Tate from Bewitched, played J. Jonah Jameson in the pilot, apparently, which you and George saw.
No, we saw a different one.
I thought you saw the pilot. Never mind.
Nope. We may all watch that later.
Maybe we'll do that. We'll see. Maybe Larry Tate got some balls into the character. No, this one was too. Oh, I'm real worried about Rita. J. Jonah Jameson would not be worried about some secretary. He wouldn't care.
And also, when they explain it to him, he thinks it's witchcraft. I thought.
Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals, they sound like witchcraft. And the other character in our show, it's David and Art. Art's field of study is Incunabula. Did I say that right?
I don't think so, but I can't pronounce it either. So don't worry. I can't pronounce it. I think you've just opened up a portal to hell with that incantation. That's not how you pronounce it, but I can't pronounce it anyway either. So don't worry. Don't stress out over it, Tim. And I'll bet you it took about 20 takes before that actor got it right.
Yes, it's a
very confusing word. It's a study of
books published before 1500.
Right.
That comes into the plot later, right?
Yeah, a little bit later. Yeah.
Sorgensen is the head of this chemical company. Oh wait, and Mr. Hansen is this sleazy guy who works for him. It appears
George Hansen, played by Mr. Alan Arbus, who played.
I saw him in a lot of things.
Oh, he was Sidney Freeman, the psychiatrist in MASH. Remember, like the very early episodes of MASH?
That's right. Yes.
Sidney would come and talk to him. He was only in like a dozen episodes. It seems to me as though he was in more. But then, come to think of it, I think after Henry Blake and Trapper left, I ever remember seeing Sidney after that.
I'm one of those people who never watched MASH. Never loved or hated it.
I liked it. I always liked it.
But it... Okay, then. We agree to agree.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why you wouldn't.
I just never got into it. But anyway.
But you didn't get... Yeah, that's fine. No judgment here. Only one of the greatest comedies ever made. But no judgment here, Tim.
So, what does happen? Oh, this Hansen guy is like, come on, we're yanking your money out. Oh, because a soccer ball came through the window and set the whole place on fire. Right.
And Peter Parker's spider senses started tingling.
Yeah. Yep. He ran in and put out that fire with a fire extinguisher.
Yes. Not before, though, he uses web to stop the shelf from falling.
True.
Because you got to work that web in whenever you can.
I know. So anyway, soccer. Soccer is a menace to society.
It is a menace to society. That's why the metric system never caught on here. We don't need this damn European influence. Did you have to go through that too? I think everybody had to go through
metrics.
It
was going to be the new thing.
I think it was President Ford, and there was even a metric board that, like, of course, Reagan disbanded like almost immediately when he became. He ripped the solar panels off the roof of the White House that Carter put in. He disbanded. The metric board because, like, well, I'll become socialist if we use solar power and use the metric system, I guess.
I think
and play soccer, but see, soccer had already caught on, and there's nothing they could do about it.
That was one of the things that enraged his gay lover. That's why he shot him.
That's why he shot him in the chest coming out of that hotel that day. Yep. Jodie Foster, whatever.
When we first see Rita, did you notice she's planking? Do you know what was going on? She was like levitating between two chairs.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That's planking.
Yes.
You remember you were into planking, right?
I planked every weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what it is. Was I into it? I don't know. I don't think I was into it, but I know what it is.
I don't know what's going on with that, why they're doing that to her.
It's that damn European socialism. It's big in Europe. They measure the body in centimeters, and that's horrific.
But the three of them. I'm trying to get the plot going.
Okay.
You want to say something?
Well, you want to get the plot going?
Just a few more minutes, because the Hanson comes in as like, you were yanking your money, and they whine. They're like, "Come on, give us a few more minutes." And he's like, "Okay." And then that was weird, right? That's what they're doing. And then Rita drops something, and he's like, "No more time."
Yeah. Oh no, she put too much. She didn't put the she put the incorrect amount of catalyst in there.
Yeah, and Hanson's like, "That's it."
And then actually this is what I was going to say, getting the plot rolling along. She dumps it down the sink, and I'm like thinking. I remember being in chemistry class in high school, and they just have us dump hydrochloric acid down the drain, and just wash it down with water. I'm like, I don't know if they still do that today. I mean, I gotta think that would. I don't think that would have been environmentally sound.
No,
but we did it all the time.
Yeah, but this takes place in New York, although filmed in L.A.
Oh, filmed in L.A.
They threw it down the drain, and smoke comes up.
They did make a mistake, and I will point that out when we get later on in the plot.
Okay. But smoke comes up from this chemistry
vapor or something. Yeah.
And suddenly,
a chemical reaction basically takes place in the sink.
And Mr. Hanson realizes that they do whatever he says.
Who must have been holding his breath.
Yeah, I know. He's never affected.
He's never affected by it.
But he finds out they do whatever he says. So
yeah.
Suddenly he's got a plan. Oh, he wants them to steal the Gutenberg Bible. It just happens to be.
Yes, because Art has told him the Gutenberg Bible is arriving that day. It's worth $2 million. Because Art's hubbalist, whatever it's called. Again, probably opening a portal to hell with that incantation, but we'll deal with that later.
Do you know how many Gutenberg Bibles they believe to be?
No, I don't. How many?
42.
Is that
right?
Okay.
Did I read that right?
I don't know. Just let's go with it. It sounds right to me. It's like we're on Fox News now. We don't know if it's right. It just sounds right.
We just know America invented it. Gutenberg Bible, America invented it.
We don't know that there's actually a caravan of Central Americans coming to the southern border, but doesn't it sound right?
They gave up on that one.
Yeah, they'll give it up. You'll notice they'll talk about it, and then like the day after Election Day, you won't hear about the caravan. No, they do it before every election. They did it before 2018. They did it this caravan, and then suddenly on Election Day, I guess they just get tired out. Every first Tuesday of November, they just hightail it on back to Honduras or something. I guess I don't know.
Oh, so the head of this chemical department, he's the father from Give Me a Break.
Yes.
I'm sure you noticed.
His name is
the
failed pilot reboot I filmed in L.A. with not so sassy and not at all African American Rebel Wilson.
Sorry, it didn't work out.
It's not getting picked up.
But his name is Dolph Sweet.
Yes.
We get a weird name every week.
You get a weird name every week.
Not in a bad way. I like it, but it's uncommon.
Well, I'm wondering if Sweet was his real last name. I should have looked that up now that you mentioned that. Because Dolph, I bet you Dolph was his first name, but he probably has some like German, Scandinavian, like 10-letter last name. And he just said, no, I'll call myself Sweet.
Yes. His grandmother probably named him that.
Probably, because he's so sweet.
She found it in her Gutenberg Bible.
Your Gutenberg Bible.
So actually there were 43 is what you're saying. That's what I'm saying.
They only know of 42.
I think I got that wrong. Man. Gutenberg Bible expert, friend of the show, sometimes co-host George O'Connor. He's going to write a letter.
Okay.
He's an expert at Gutenberg Bibles.
Is he real? Oh, see, he's just an expert at everything. He's an expert on an Irish brogue. He's an expert on...
An Irish what?
You said he could speak with an Irish accent better than I could.
Oh, it's
Which
right.
I don't know why you think that. I don't know why I've ever spoken in an Irish accent with you. But anyway.
They try to steal the Bible, or do they? But
they steal the Bible.
But Spider-Man shows up to, I don't know, he just shows up to straighten things out.
Yeah, but
I forget.
But Hansen gets away with the Bible, but then returns it.
Yes.
They have to, the three students have to appear in court. Yeah. And they're like, we don't remember anything. And the Gutenberg Bible does get returned.
Did you see how they dressed for court?
Very disrespectful to the judge.
Yes.
That's the problem with this country. Young people dressing up like that way to go to court and no prayer in school.
I know. I thought, come on, you're going to court.
Get a haircut and start saying you're our fathers and Hail Marys, and everything will be fine with this country.
But what's her name? Van Houten. She dressed nicer than that when she went to court.
She really did. Well, the second time when she wasn't like with this time she didn't have the swastika carved in her forehead. The second time when they let her out for a year, you know, then she wised up a little, you know.
So so Julie shows up to scoop the story. Mm-hmm. Oh wait, there's another robbery here. No.
Well, there is another.
Yeah.
There's another robbery. He steals these priceless jewels that are everything happens on campus. This must be a fantastic campus. They got an art museum and they're displaying these priceless jewels. We don't know what the jewels are because as soon as he starts talking about it, the security guards who are also under the influence of the drug are turning the alarm on and everybody has to evacuate. And then they start smashing with the crowbars. And then Julie starts getting the pictures, but she's getting the pictures of Spider-Man beating up the guards. And all I could think of was, because I remember like in the comics, Spider-Man was like a vigilante and Jonah Jameson thought he was an outlaw and actually... Was it the Daily Bugle? Was that the paper
that's the
Spider-Man?
Daily Bugle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember. I almost said the Daily Planet, and I knew that was Superman. In the Daily Bugle, he would it was almost kind of like the New York Post. Like he would run these sensational headlines about Spider-Man, how he was this vigilante and this crook, and he had a reward. You know, he had a bounty out on him. And so when she started taking those pictures, I was like, uh-oh.
I know. That's what I was
They're going to frame Spider-Man. He's going to be on the front page because he's beating up these security guards, and you take pictures of that, and you don't know that they're under the influence of this drug. And wouldn't you think?
I read that they had 7 days to film an episode, so no time for a subplot about Spider-Man being framed for this robbery while there's mind control people running around.
Again, it goes back to that softened J. Jonah Jameson. He'd be like, J. Jonah Jameson would be like, get Spider-Man. He's behind all this. He would have immediately blamed it on Spider-Man.
That was the lamest museum I've ever seen on a show, or that I've ever seen.
It was probably the same room that Pass has the security guard's office, the lab, the chemical storeroom. It was probably all the same room, and they just had to keep switching out the plot, you know, or the props. You know, is what I'm trying to say.
I've been to the art museum in Elmira, New York, so you know I've seen some bad museums. It's just my joke.
Is it a bad museum? I'm trying to remember if I've ever been there.
No, my joke is that museum in the show is pretty bad, and I've seen
some bad
the Elmira Art Museum. I can't split it up like that. Never mind. Let's go. Oh, I do want to say that they wondered what was going on with the drugs. Peter did, and Peter looks at some mice and says, "Did you test the drug on these mice?" And he's like, "Of course we didn't test the drugs on these mice." And I'm like, isn't that the main purpose of lab mice? To be testing things?
Yeah, why were they keeping them? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I had to point that out.
Yeah, there were a lot of things I didn't grasp in this. I'm going to admit. No, seriously, there were a lot of things. Yeah. Like, I thought, was he getting at the fact, like, did, like, some of the vapor seep into the mouse cage? Is that what he was getting at?
Oh, it was
But then if the mice breathed it in, then why didn't Hansen breathe it?
I know.
I'm so confused about this episode.
Well, Hansen's running around with a little bottle with an endless supply of spraying people. with
Kind
a
of looks like a
cloud.
He kind of looks like nasal spray, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
It looks like a big like neophenephrine bottle or something, you know.
And I think he's trying to, I think he's trying to steal the money from his old boss. That's
Yes, he's going to get all the data, data, the sheets and everything, which are locked in the vault. And 3 people have the key, but the one guy who has the key is on vacation in Spain.
right.
And hands just like, flat.
Yeah. Sorry. You're getting,
This is where I found the discrepancy.
well, the discrepancy.
Well, the discrepancy relating to trying to pass LA off as New York.
Yeah.
In the scene where he gets the I don't know if they were National Guard soldiers or Army soldiers, I don't know what they were. But he gets them to break into the vault at the chemical plant or the chemical headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And in their little armory thingy there, whatever it is, there's a California state flag. You can just catch the corner of it flying. Right. It's like, well, why would there be a California? Why would there be a California state flag if you've set this in New York?
John, come on, suspension of disbelief.
Well, but that only goes so far.
You're the kind of person that says, come on, don't you recognize that Clark Kent is Superman? It's just a pair of glasses.
You don't.
You got to believe.
You spend all this money on the convincing spider webs. You spend all this money
ropes
on the convincing big neophenephrine bottle that's spraying this mist, hypnotizing these people.
Yes.
But you can't remember to put a New York state flag up instead of a California state flag.
No time. 7 days. 7 days.
Come on. Or how about just take the flag down? You don't even have to put up a New York flag. Just take the flag down. That's why CBS canceled this show. There was that scene. They're like, no, you're not going to get away with this.
They canceled it because they had Wonder Woman and the Hulk, and they were starting to get embarrassed. That's the truth. They're like, enough with the superheroes.
Apparently, the ratings were very, very good on this. It just wasn't the age demographic they wanted.
No, I was a kid and excited to see it, but I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
there's a lot wrong with this.
They didn't want just kids seeing it. They wanted more adults seeing it. Yeah.
I understand. So let's see. So he mind controls a whole brigade of the army, like you said. I don't know what they are, National Guard.
Something, yeah.
And he told the dad on Give Me a Break to call up his airplane and tell him to load it up with all this data.
Yeah.
I was laughing about that. Today's data would be like one laptop, maybe.
Yeah. This is, what do you say? It was 11,000 pounds or 1,100 pounds of paper or something. Right. It's like, oh, well, it is 1979.
So have the plane ready for that.
Yeah. I'll be the only passenger, but there'll be a lot of data in the back.
And how does... They don't say how Spider-Man gets out there, but I forget how he figures it out. Do you remember?
I don't remember. Oh, well, he goes over. No, Peter Parker goes over to interview the owner, the dad from Give Me a Break.
That's right.
And says,
They figure it out.
Do you remember? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, your housekeeper said he was here last night.
Yep.
And then he says, could you have given orders to anybody? Could you call somebody at your office? Is there anybody there? So he calls the office and he's like, what? I ordered a plane to go where?
I know. He's freaking out.
Yeah. Because you don't remember anything after you've been hypnotized by this big neophenephrine bottle.
But Spider-Man goes out there and fights the army by hiding. I don't think they shot their guns once, did they? It was like super nonviolent.
It was super nonviolent. There were only like 5 of them.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think there would have been more?
Yep. And Spider-Man webs them up. And Spider-Man throws web in front of the windshield so that the truck crashes. I'm not quite sure how that worked because it's just big rope.
It's a big, scary rope.
I was like, why'd you drive off the road? And then Spider-Man sprays the bad guy Hansen with the mind controls dust, and he confesses, basically.
He does confess.
Basically.
Yeah.
And then Peter and his 3 friends, they dispose of their mind control compound for the good of mankind.
But this time he puts it in like a little receptacle. Did you notice that he put it in like it was like a capsule, and he screwed the lid on? And
Is that what you want to go back to? That's what they're supposed to do? Okay.
But you know who played Rita? You know, the secretary, who for whatever reason was helping with the Miss Chip Fields, mother of Kim Fields, who played Tootie on The Facts of Life.
But yes, she was also on Give Me a Break. A few episodes.
She was on Give Me a Break. She played Penny, Janet Jackson's abusive biological mother, on Good Times for 4 episodes.
Oh, and also another odd thing about this episode, David, the man in charge of the chemical experiment, at one point, we forgot a big part of the plot.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I have a natural resistance to drugs. And they're like, oh, yeah, right. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's out of nowhere. And Rita's like, I don't. She's like, I'm down for some drugs. I'm down for some drugs.
I'm down to go tripping.
Because they give her a drug and then give her electroshock to get rid of, to make her remember the stuff she doesn't remember.
But she doesn't want to say it. And then she blurts out, because Hanson told me not to tell. I was like, aha! Yes. Hanson told you not to tell. There's the answer all along.
But they made her plank again. I'm like, why are you making her plank for this?
I think Chip Fields just wanted to show off. She's like, I can plank. Could you write that in an episode? I think all that episode was written around the fact that Chip Fields told them she could plank.
Yes, I think so. But still, I don't know why David was naturally resistant to drugs.
I don't know either. Maybe he did too many of them.
There's a whole other story there.
Maybe that's what happened to Chuck on Happy Days. That's why you never saw him again. Like, he started taking angel dust or something. They didn't know what to do in Milwaukee in the 50s. They were growing angel dust.
No.
So they sent him away, and he was never seen again. And then he shows up. He shows up in the late 80s as a graduate student in New York.
Jeez.
Making mind-controlling drugs. It all comes together. It all comes together. He was actually Chuck Cunningham. His name wasn't David. It was Chuck Cunningham.
I think we got it all.
I think we got it all. I think we nailed it.
Because it's quiz time.
I'll call it
the Bib Code
SETI Q&A.
Brain twisting.
Answering quizzes.
Theme song. Do you like quizzes, John?
I do love quizzes. I'll call it SETI Q&A.
Brain twist. The Bib Code. I love quizzes. The Bib Code.
I'll call it theme song.
No.
So who from this show was voted most likely to be the CEO of an elevator company?
Well, that's easy. It would have been Peter Parker Spider-Man using his web powers to hoist the elevator up and down.
They knew that in high school? Is that all Peter talked about?
Didn't he get bitten by the radioactive spider in high school? I believe so.
Yeah. But it's a secret, John.
Well, you know what? Peter starts bragging. He's in the back seat of the car with the girl. He says, hey, you know what? Guess what? I got bit by a radioactive spider. Guess what I can do?
That is what would happen.
Yes. It was real wild. It was, let me show you what I can do, baby, with my spidey senses. So that got out, and then, the elevators went out. He's like, I can fix the elevators. And he's pew, pew. He gets to the webs, and he just starts pulling. And so it's kind of like a pulley, like a dumbwaiter, one of those old dumbwaiters that you had to operate by hand.
Just looks like ropes.
Yeah, and one day they're like, you are going to be the CEO of an elevator company.
Because he hates animals. He's very, very cruel to animals.
He hates animals. Well, I guess maybe getting bit by the spider, maybe he just lumped the whole animal kingdom together. I don't know.
Well, I think it'll be David.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, he was voted the most likely to be the CEO of an elevator company because of his natural resistance to drugs. You see, he wasn't cool. He tried to do drugs, but it didn't affect him. So he wasn't a cool guy. He wasn't a stoner guy. He was the boring guy they called Even Steven. So as a cruel joke, all the kids voted him most likely to be CEO of an elevator company because he couldn't get high or low because they called him Even Steven.
Gotcha.
Even though his name was David. So even after high school, everyone called him Even Steven, and he hated it. The power of the rumor that he would become the CEO of an elevator company caused his parents to send him to elevator school, much to his dismay. But he eventually got involved with chemicals and mind control drugs because he wanted to force people to call him David and not Even Steven. There you go. They can't all be funny. That's philosophical.
Well, no, they can't all be funny, and that one wasn't.
And they're not all funny. You're so honest, John.
I'm sorry. I'm a little
That's
punchy.
good.
I am sleep deprived. I am so sleep deprived right now.
Well, we're done. We're done. Who from this
No, that's
movie
cool.
would have a podcast? Who
Well,
from
it would be,
this show?
of course, it would be Rita, and she would do a podcast about planking. Now, unfortunately, it's an audio only podcast, so there's just like a lot of dead air. It only lasts 3 episodes. It goes nowhere. It's like, hey Rita, you know what? You should have done video with your podcast if you just plank. And now I am planking, and then like dead silence for 20 minutes.
That's a good one.
And yeah, and
It's called Hey Rita?
Yeah, hey Rita. Rita a planking, you know, and it's just like there's just dead air for like 20 minutes, a half hour. It never caught on. It never caught on.
See, I like that one. And you know what's funny? I said Rita had a podcast too. I think after this one failed, she tried again.
Okay.
So I was saying Rita had a podcast. Even though Rita was only under for a few minutes in this episode, she was under the drug she took. Uh-huh. In her head, the trip seemed to last.
And perhaps created.
Yes. In her head seemed to last years to her. During this trip, she read the Gutenberg Bible, which contained a lot of stories about planking and spelunking. So eventually, in the 2000s, stay with me, she has a podcast about spelunking and planking, in which she often rails against Tom Green, who says he created planking on his 1994 TV show. They also make fun of Tom Green because he called spelunking potholing, which is what they call it in England. Potholing.
Okay.
Her podcast talks to other people who feel they planked long before Tom Green and feel that Tom Green's pranks were not funny. Sadly, Rita cannot plank or splunk anymore, John, so maybe this connects to yours. She fell off the stage while planking during Queen's classic set during Live Aid and fell right into a cave and seriously hurt her back. Her podcast is called Planking with Rita. That's all.
Planking with Rita.
It's weird how similar it was to yours.
It's similar. Yeah, they are.
No, it's funny. You had the same idea, but your bit's a little bit more funny.
No, yours is great. No, mine was not funny at all.
No, I like yours. I wasn't going to even read mine, but I thought, okay, I'll tell them what I said.
There you go.
So who would have a spin-off show?
Well, David would have a spin-off show.
Okay.
And the title of it was called Seinfeld. Unfortunately, David only lasted the first 4 episodes playing Jerry's brother, Chuck Seinfeld. And it just went in a totally different direction after that.
Chuck just left one night. You never saw him again?
Chuck just left one night. All of a sudden, Jerry didn't have an older brother anymore.
Maybe Kramer murdered him.
Yeah, Chuck Seinfeld. Look it up. I don't think those episodes are running in syndication though.
The Chuck Seinfeld Show.
The Chuck Seinfeld show. The missing Chuck episodes, they call them.
What is the deal with mind control? I can't do.
What is the deal with mind control? That's the best Seinfeld I can do off the top of my head.
That's not Seinfeld, John.
Where's my brother Chuck? I had a brother Chuck, and then suddenly I didn't.
Is that Seinfeld? You sound like a comedian from the 50s, John.
It's the best I can do. It's Jerry, very early in his career, very heavily influenced by Shecky Green.
You sound like a comedian from the 50s trying to hide his his homosexuality.
Sometimes on this podcast, I feel like a stand-up comedian from the 50s. But anyway.
Wow, an accent. Well, I say, Dolph Sweet, Ben Sorgensen, he has a spin-off show. He was very upset about the fact that he was mind-controlled and then questioned everything he did forever after that. He never knew of such witchcraft, just like J. Jonah Jameson called it, as this mind control. So he would hire Art, the guy who studied books before the year of 1500, however you pronounce that. Together, they would look into the history of witchcraft. Much of what we know about witchcraft was written before 1500, so he's an expert. Every episode of this early 80s show would have them looking into instances of witchcraft, like the rise of new wave music, Cabbage Patch Dolls, and what Ben Sorgensen called Satan's Rubik's Cube. Often Art would ask Ben to get him a coffee while they worked the long hours into the night, and Ben would be paralyzed, wondering if he had been mind-controlled into asking him to get coffee, or was he doing it of his own free will? Likewise, Art would remind Ben to take his medication, and Ben would often not take it, thinking he had been mind-controlled into doing so. Art would often tell Ben that nobody actually has free will. Everything is predetermined unless a witch is involved. Then they would argue, but always end up solving their dilemma, burning a witch at the stake at the end of most episodes. The show would be called Call an Ambulance because Ben had to go to the hospital all the time because he couldn't take his...
Try to fit that into a TV guide, I say.
Call an ambulance because Ben had to go to the hospital because he didn't take his medication. So there. That's that. We got through with the show.
We barely.
In 1 hour. Guess we're going to read George's letter another week.
I think that should just be its own episode. I think it should just be. Maybe we could have George on with me one day, and George could actually read his own letter.
I want to read it. Oh my God!
Speaking of emails, where do people send an email, Tim?
Let me make sure nobody else sent one.
Nobody did. Come on, Tim. Are we still kidding? Why do we even have the email anymore?
Send emails to us at SETIBIMCO with an E at gmail.com. You can send us a short story about your embarrassing high school moment, if you wish. I have to sound dignified when I say that. You can find us on Instagram, SETI_BIMCO. Maybe I'll quit Twitter by now. It's already, I just don't want to be on there. Sorry, everybody. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. And... wow, that's all that's left, isn't it? Instagram, LinkedIn. Follow us and like us on all the platforms.
Maybe we get a telegraph line. Maybe we should just go back to the we learn Morse code.
Like us and follow us. We don't know exactly what's going to happen next week, do we? No.
No, we don't.
So, but come back next Wednesday.
We'll surprise everybody.
See if we can get through this. Ben's show is called Call an Ambulance because Ben had to go to the hospital again.
Tell you, they would not be able to fit that.
He would take his medication.
They would not be able to fit that in a TV guide.
All right.
That title would have never flown.
I'll talk to you next week.
All right, Tim, you have a great night.
Bye.
SETI BIMCO is a podcast by Tim Hamilton and John Kelly, produced by Miss Lee. Music by Tim Hamilton. This has been a Pity Party Line production.
Party line, it's a party line.
And the one thing, and if I ever did dress up for Halloween again, I always wanted to go as Alex from a Clockwork Orange.
You told me this, yes.
Yeah, did I tell you this? Yeah, and I do the extended lower.
It's all the unedited. It's all the edited stuff. All the stuff I have to add on the podcast is you talking about how you want to dress up as Alex. Come on.
Is that what, have you edited that every week? You've edited that. One of these weeks it'll get in, I'm sure.
People at home, that's all John talks about.
When he spoiler, he kills somebody with a ceramic penis, right. Which apparently is not in the book, which I have never read, but you told me it was not in the book.
Yes, it was not in the book.
The ceramic penis. But I was going to make like a big penis out of paper mache. And then when I go up to get a drink, I'd be like, "Excuse me, could you hold my penis, please, while I get my drink?"
We had this conversation.
See how that'll work as a pickup. Did this conversation make it to the air?
Yes.
Probably not. Did it really?
Maybe I took it out because you're dressed up as the controversial part of the movie that people are still angry about.